Am I adulting good?
I just don't know what I'm doing. I can't breathe.
I feel so anxious.
This is what it's all about.
I just don't know what I'm doing. I can't breathe.
This is what life's all about. I just don't know what I'm doing. Oh, what's going on?
I don't understand.
Welcome to the Am I Adulting Good podcast, where we talk about all things self-help and the reality behind trying to adult to our best ability in this world. We're your hosts, Brianna, Kriss,
And I'm Caroline Savransky.
and we are both in community mental health, so we've seen some pretty interesting things.
Deciding to take on the journey of self-betterment is daunting and hard. Let's make the mistakes together and share what does and does not work. Because hey, are any of us doing anything right? And if we are, how would we even know?
We will cover a variety of topics like the old self-sabotage, toxic relationships, finding yourself after a breakup, or perfectionism. Special guests will be invited for most episodes to share their experiences and wisdom.
This podcast is aimed at anyone and everyone who needs a little bit of help getting their shit together and wants some company in doing so. We're in it for the laughs, but if we can learn something on the way, then that's good too.
Am I adulting good?
Hey all, welcome to another episode of Am I Adulting Good? This week we have a friend of mine. We've known each other for a short period, but it's been beautiful and loving from the get-go. Sophie Spencer, who is joining us today to talk about being bold, being brave, and being beautiful. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hello, thank you for having me. It's so cool to finally be here with you guys.
You just have like the most expressive, happy smile. So I feel like we're going to learn a lot about being bold and brave and beautiful from you. So we start off asking all our guests, what does adulting mean to you?
Yeah, so when you guys sent me through this question today, so I could kind of like be prepared, I honestly was like, oh my God, it's like, this feels like an adulty question. I'm like, I don't know how to answer this. And like, for me, when I thought that I was adulting, I was almost using it in a way of like, kind of like, to me, it was associated with something that was trending on social media. And it would be something where I'd like almost like blast it, like my small little wins on social media. And I realized that like, that was really the only time that I associated it with adulting as such. The fact that like, every single day we're taking small little moves and changes to our lives to further and like broaden where we're going in our lives. That kind of what it means to be an adult for me is like really embracing those small changes and those small wins. And it's something that like I feel like I'm kind of closed off on expressing so much, but I don't think it needs to be expressed.
What a description. I'm just like waking up in the morning and dressing yourself. No.
Small win, baby, small win. And that's the thing is like, you know, there's so many other things to go with it, like with the responsibility and owning your shit. But like, yeah, for me, it's just the small wins and not overwhelming myself. I feel like life is pretty crazy that, you know, if we're going to be so hard on ourselves all the time, like, nah, you gotta accept the small little wins and pat yourself on the back for them.
Gosh, when you're a kid, you don't have any to-do lists. You don't have many due dates. I mean, you have assignments and all the rest, but there's not like those life to-do lists and everything else that you have to do in between. And it's just, yeah, it's true adulting. All of a sudden you have 1,000 to-do lists and 4 different apps to manage them.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, it's so easy to get overwhelmed, but I think it's just so important to kind of bring yourself back into presence and be like, aha, what have I achieved today and what can I be proud of today? And yeah, just not overdoing it. You know, that's what I think it is to be an adult and be succeeding as an adult in this society.
So much. Then I guess, can you give us in a bit of a nutshell who you are? You know, what do you do? Where have you come from and where are you going?
So my name is Soph, as you know, and I am originally from Cairns. I spent 18 years there growing up in Cairns with my beautiful family, and then moved down to Brisbane to study a Bachelor of Photography, majoring in social documentary and photojournalism. And that kind of set me off on like this really cool path and excitement in travel. I started my own travel blog, and in 2018 I took that full time and had a crazy time doing that overseas, which was full of so much learning. And yeah, I kind of landed back in Australia in 2019 and have been focusing so much on my own kind of healing and my own growth and where I want to be moving and what type of life I'm creating for myself now. Being a little bit more futuristic, which is a bit weird for me because I always kind of like lived month by month with savings and with trips and plans. And so it's been really nice to kind of settle down in a way. But yeah, I'm doing my photography as my full-time thing now, which is really cool. I still work in a cafe. And yeah, I take women through beautiful self-love sessions, stepping into like a super vulnerable space to really step in to be the wild, brave, beautiful, bold woman that she so deeply is, underneath all the conditioning and insecurities. And yeah, it's been super special.
Sounds amazing. And it also sounds like you would never get bored because you were doing just like a clustertude. Is that even a word of just like really fun, amazing things?
Clustertude.
I was going to say clusterfuck, but like a clusterfuck of really fun things. So when you're doing these sessions with these, you know, amazing women and empowering them, what does bold and brave and beautiful mean to you and to them?
So much of it really is like when women actually come to me and say that they want to do a shoot with me, like that for me is the bravest thing that a woman can do, is like that initial like, okay, I'm ready to step into this. Like that's it, like completely, that's it. Being able to put yourself in those positions that are scary, like it's incredibly nerving to do that. And so I think that is like initially, you know, the woman is always the one that steps in with being super brave and super bold in that. And then we just untap so much in the sessions. It's you know, I started these sessions with the intention of like working through healing and bringing up like inner child wounds and doing a lot of that. But I realized that women just need to be loved. Women just need to be loved. We don't need to constantly have our shit being brought up. And, you know, like we just need to be loved and accepted in what we are and how we're showing up. And so I changed my shoots to be just about that, about, you know, being able to be creative and fun and play around and dress up, you know, like I used to have like a no makeup rule, but, you know, whatever makes a woman feel beautiful, just do it. You know, we put so much limitations on ourselves as women, and I feel as though we need to kind of cut that bullshit, and, you know, everybody feels beautiful in a different way. So
it'd be amazing to do a no makeup photo shoot.
Yeah, exactly. Like it to be able to like, makeup is beautiful, you know, like the art that comes from makeup is beautiful. And I started to associate it with covering and hiding, but it's not at all, you know. If it's done with the right intention, it's so beautiful. And so I think that there's a lot that the photo shoots have also helped me with my own healing and my own acceptance and my own journey with that. And yeah, it's all just been amazing. I never, ever would have thought that I'd be, you know, hosting these photo shoots with women even 2 years ago. And so to be here and to, you know, be taking so many women through these sessions and opening up so many other doors for these women, it's phenomenal.
Such incredible work. It's so lovely. And I hear what you're saying. I'm a good example of that. So much of going through the different phases in my life of, oh, I didn't want to invest anything in the clothing that I wore because then, you're being materialistic. And I didn't want to wear makeup because then you're not showing who you really are and you're just covering things up. But it took so long to actually understand that that is so shameful. And it's so shameful to put onto a person to be like, oh, you're not who you truly are because you wear makeup or you dress up or whatever it might be. And to actually be like, actually, these things can aid an expression of self. These things can help you step into a different role or into a personality or a being that you want to portray, that you want to be, and be an aid to that.
Yeah.
And it's not shameful. It's actually a really beautiful thing.
Yeah, and I do think that there is a lot of shame around that. And I think also too, like, one thing that's changed, I've kind of gone through like a big transition in the last maybe month with how I want to be doing my shoots. And the other thing is that it was so like, it was so encouraged to be topless or nude. And it was never in a way of like being pushy, but it was like, that's kind of how we step into like full acceptance. And I've also realized that like, these photo shoots that I'm doing, you don't need to be nude to love yourself. You don't need to be topless to love yourself. You could be wearing like, I don't know, like 20 towels over you and you could love yourself. Like you don't need to be anything that you're not. And I'm starting to understand how to create that space now that is just so encouraging for every woman.
So what does it look like, your photo shoots? What does it look like to embody bold, brave and beautiful? Give us a little run through of what a photo shoot with you is like.
So basically, a lot of the women I know of, so there's not really like this kind of initial introduction. But we just meet up wherever it is, like depending on whether it's at a beach or it's in the forest, and we meet up. We've got about 2 hours. I play music, we drink cacao, we sit in with a meditation, and we just kind of like share intentions for the shoot. And it's in a way that it's like, we're there creating together, and we're there as 2 sisters or 3 sisters, however women are there, how many women are there. And, if they decide that they want to shed their layers, I shed my layers with them. And it's a very much like an equal space of being able to show up how you want to show up and be held in how you show up and be accepted and loved and seen and witnessed for how you want to show up. And it's super, super special to be able to stand there with another woman naked on the beach, like just loving life and just without any barriers that are between us, and just completely free in that space and just feeling so damn beautiful. And so my photo shoots are fun, my photo shoots are so fun, and they're light. They're definitely lighter now that I don't do so much healing stuff. And it's, it's just a time for us to connect really, and to be all of you.
So your experience with the women that you work with and on these shoots, I assume that a lot of people are at different comfortabilities, different levels of being that, bold and brave person that they may want to be. What type of processing of emotions do you see goes on during this time? What do you think is influencing and causing these women to either hold back or to not feel safe enough in themselves to be able to be that free, bold, beautiful self?
I think it's a combination. Well, I think it's mainly just conditioning, for sure. But I also think it's the sexualization of nudity, especially when that's something that starts to come up in the shoots. Like if the woman starts to step into that, is the sexualization of the body. And it's, taking your clothes off and being topless in a space that other people are around or may come through. It's that, I guess, that fear of judgment of what other people think of you too. And, like of being sexualized when you're really just in your most natural state. But I've seen women go through some tears, like some really hard wounds from childhood and from their teenage years of, you know, body image and just not feeling worthy in their skin or beautiful or sexy, or they might not know how to move their body. Like a lot of the times I put music on to try and kind of like free up the woman in her movement, and a lot of times like women kind of just stay still and they don't know how to move, and you can feel the energy change when that happens. And so there's a lot of shame, there's a lot of fear of judgment, and there's this horrible sexualization of the body as well that comes with it. So it's kind of like a big turmoil of things, but there's also a lot of happiness, you know, like a lot of happiness, a lot of comments of like, you know, I had no idea I could feel like this in front of a camera, and like I feel so great, I feel like a goddess. And so I kind of see both sides of the thing, and it's really cool because I journey through it with the women that I'm photographing, and I really feel it, you know, and it hits points in me too of my own conditioning and my own fears, and it really helps me at the same time as it helps them.
How is that for you, going on an emotional journey with every person that you photograph? How do you keep yourself energized when you're giving so much of yourself during these photo shoots?
God, I just love it. Yeah, I just love it so much, and I don't really think of it in that way, you know. I don't feel like I'm giving too much energy. I kind of feel like I'm fulfilling my purpose. And that doesn't feel like it's draining at all. It feels, if anything, it gives me more energy. And to be able to create that space with them is just super, super special.
For the women who might not be around you and to be able to engage in these type of practices with you, and they feel in themselves the conditioning and the potential self-body shaming or, inability to step truly into their body the way that they would like to, what can they do? What approaches can they take in the everyday to rebuild that relationship with themselves to make them feel more comfortable?
I feel like there's so many little things out there, and there's so many beautiful pages now on social media that share all these wonderful things. But for me, like I love sitting in the mirror nude. I love sitting in the mirror nude, and especially when I've had like a really rough day, because, you know, I go through a lot of issues with my body image too, and, you know, like it's definitely not easy, and I struggle, you know, quite a lot with it. And like I really love sitting in front of the mirror, you know, and just being like talking to myself. And it sounds a bit crazy, but just talking to myself in the mirror and learning
Do you give yourself a little bit of a tickle at the same time? Bit of self-love?
Honestly, like I am so lacking in my self-pleasure at the moment. So lacking. And it kind of goes with like, I guess, what I've been processing in my personal life at the moment, and changes that are happening in my body. And, you know, there's still a lot of wounds that I never actually thought I had around self-pleasure, that came up like a few days ago, and I was like, oh, wow, I needed that. It's just like constantly, there's all these things just constantly coming up. And so, yeah, like self-pleasure is beautiful though. Self-pleasuring is so beautiful, and it's such a journey to go through. And honestly, I'm at the start of mine. So I really don't have enough to be able to share with that. But yeah, it's it's coming along. we're in the making. And honestly, just being easy on yourself. Like we set out all these like high expectations of what we should be achieving and what we should be doing. And I love to-do lists. Like I am notorious for like crazy to-do lists, but it can be just too much sometimes. And sometimes we just need to sit and be still and to be silly and to move our bodies and actually understand like how we can move our body into it, like with intuition. And so there's just like a lot of little things that I feel like women can start doing to be able to start to prepare them for that space. And take photos of yourself. Like honestly, take photos of yourself, especially on like your hardest days, on the days where you don't love your body, you know, take a photo. Like I remember this day when I was in England, and so I did 2 semesters abroad in Leeds, which was a crazy time. And for one of my assignments, we had to do like, it was kind of like a week by week different thing that we had to do. And this week was on self. And I was going through such a hell of a time with the transitions of like being in an English winter where it's freezing cold and such a crazy influence of alcohol and not feeling motivated to exercise because it's so cold. And I was like in a very uncomfortable space with my body, you know, like I gave it a lot of pain. And I woke up this morning and I realized that I hadn't done my photos that I was meant to for university. And I was like, shit, what can I do? And I was like, I've just got to take really vulnerable, scary photos of my body. And I remember these images so clearly. Like you could see my scars from my surgeries, like everything was like, my skin was super pale because I hadn't seen the sun for ages. And I remember taking them being like, this is like, whoa, I can't believe I have to like put these images up in front of the class like later today. Like, what am I doing? And it was beautiful. Like, it was honestly so beautiful, like going up there and like putting these photos up on the screen and everyone just being like, oh, whoa, wow. It was a lot. But to be able to go back 5-6 years and then like look at those images and be like, wow, my body has morphed and changed so much. Like, it's so nice to have that little memory of, you know, the shape that my body was in.
It's amazing.
My phone is full of disgusting images of myself. I mean, not disgusting, sorry, shouldn't say that, but I mean like,
yeah, but it's good, you know, like, and I think it's okay to like, you know, we don't always have to love ourselves and see ourselves in such deep light. I think that's kind of where we get caught up. Honestly, like, I think, you know, we're not perfect. We're not going to wake up every day and be like, wow, I am beautiful and I am amazing and I am like, you know, not every day we're going to feel like that. And I don't feel like you have to fake that till you make it. You know, I just feel like you need to be like, oh, I don't feel so good today, and that's okay. But, you know, like, how can I show myself a bit of kindness, or how can I show myself a bit of love? And, you know, like being able to have those photos, like whether you view them in a positive or a negative way, that is actually going to change in, you know, 2 weeks time or a month's time or 10 years down the track. You might go back and be like, wow, those are really beautiful photos. And I'm so glad that like I look beautiful. And, you know, when you took those photos, you might have, like, as you said, felt disgusting, but it's not always going to be like that.
No, it's completely a perception of the way that we look at ourselves in the moment. I mean, the amount of times I get a Facebook reminder of something that happened 6 years ago or 5 years ago, and I can actually remember how I felt during that time. And I look at the images now and, you know, I'm seeing myself as young and youthful and beautiful, but I didn't feel like that at the time. And it just makes you think, the way that you perceive yourself right now, how will your future self see that and understand that everything is momentary and it does change, and to be kind on yourself, because, you know, seeing yourself in a poor light may more reflect upon how you are treating yourself on a day-to-day basis during that period rather than how you actually are.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, there's so much to learn with that too. And I think, you know, I might be 60, 70 years old and I'll still be learning how to love my body, and that's okay. But yeah, the kindness goes a very, very long way.
So when you're in the mirror, go for it, Caroline.
No, go for it.
When you're in the mirror and, you know, you're taking photos of yourself and just observing yourself when you're feeling like you're in the dumps and you're feeling crap for the day,
Yeah.
do you go through a bit of a ritual of self-love or identifying things that you like about your body, or are you just there basically observing without judgment?
I would love to say that I'm observing without judgment, but like, let's be real. My mind is not like that at all. No, like when I am doing that and when I'm having a hard day, like I do like to think of, you know, the things that I do love about myself. And so often when I am in the slumps like that, I go down memory lane. Like it's something that I do. And, you know, I do see myself in a present state of accepting and of loving where I am. But when I'm really, really flat, I go down memory lane and I go back to times where I, you know, didn't think I was going to be able to make something or achieve something, or I felt like giving up, or I, you know, didn't feel like I was strong enough. And when I overcome that and kind of like, I guess I go to the space of not comparison, but just like, aha, if I can get through that, I can get through this too, because this is only temporary. This is just a temporary feeling. And so I really enjoy being able to kind of flash back to hard times and be able to realize that that doesn't exist so much in my presence, and that, you know, this too will pass.
This too will pass.
Oh.
It's one of my favorite sayings. This too shall pass. I just like got a totally kind of different tangent. I have a memory of being a kid and sitting in front of the mirror completely naked, looking at my vagina. And I was like 8 or 9 years old. And my mum just casually walks past and she goes, just don't put anything in there. And just kept on walking. But I'm just thinking like, looking and just being in front of the mirror naked without any judgment, actually just genuinely being like, that's a vagina. I haven't like done that since I was a kid. Like, yes, now I still look at myself in the mirror naked, but it's so hard to do it without judgment and just genuinely be curious about everything that you're looking at. How can people align themselves with, you know, feeling more bold and brave and beautiful when they're sitting in front of the mirror naked, and have a childlike curiosity about what's in front of them?
And I think that's it, is like being comfortable to actually go back and embrace that inner child within us, because there is so much that we learn from our younger selves and from the children that are around us, you know, like there is this really beautiful curiosity where, you know, the mind hasn't had time to build up with all this conditioning. And so I think it really is just like, maybe even just thinking about like, how would a child view this? How would I view this when I was 10 years old, when I didn't have all of this drama, all this chaos in my mind? Like, and maybe even just picking one thing, you know, pick one thing that you like in that moment, you know, whether it's your eyes or how your skin feels even, or, you know, just one thing, and just be like, aha, okay, that's really beautiful. And to accept that, you know, it's not easy and you're not always going to, you know, feel like this as well. And I think the brave side of it is actually allowing your emotions to run, you know. I think it's so brave to be vulnerable and to be able to sit there in the mirror, and if you feel like crying, let yourself cry. You know, if you want to scream, let yourself scream, you know. Like I think there's so much courage that comes from being vulnerable, especially when you're looking at yourself in the mirror. You know, really look at yourself in the mirror and cry. That's fucking beautiful.
It makes me feel of how surface level my last experience of sitting in front of the mirror was. And it actually happened like maybe a couple months ago. I don't sit in the front of the mirror often naked. It's just sometimes I come out of the shower and I'm just like, oh, I got floor-length mirrors. And I sat in front of it and I was just sitting on my bed, which faces the mirror. And I was just drawing resemblance between me and an ape. And I was just like, oh, I really like, I can see how evolution has come so far. I'm like, I actually just look like an ape. And it was like, there was no judgment, absolutely no judgment. It was like the purest of just comparisons. And I'm just like, I don't really have big breasts, but I've been building up my chest muscles. So I'm like, oh, wow, they're kind of looking strong like an ape. And I got a gutted and a stomach. And I'm like, I've got stretch marks. I'm like, I'm feeling like an animal today.
Amazing. Honestly, amazing. That's so great to be able to have that and to not have judgment come up and just be like, wow, this is a cool observation. I get history. Like, I get the evolution now.
Oh, science. But it was also freeing because you're like, I'm just an animal. Like, there's no judgment there. And then I started going on the thought patterns of, you know, every animal looks so different as well. And you have, you know, within species, every single born animal within that species has differences amongst them. And they don't judge each other by how they look. I mean, sure, some birdies do, you know, a bit of a wiggle and a dance to show off their pretty feathers, but it's just, it's not the same as what we do of self-deprecation and, you know, bombardment of negativity and the shape of what we've just got as a vehicle to move us through life.
Yeah, and that's it. At the end of the day, it is just a vessel. It's just a vessel that carries all, you know, it carries our soul in the physical. That's all it is. Yeah, it's so heavily weighted, and I understand why it's so heavily weighted, because that's how we've been built up in society with social media and magazines and the ideal body sizes and all that jazz. But at the end of the day, it's just a vessel. And what your soul is inside and what energy you emit out into the world, that's important.
It's amazing the conditioning of it all. I mean, you know, and none of us are immune to it. I judge myself all the time. I'm not saying that I don't. It was just one really pure moment that was really nice to experience. But sure, like on a day-to-day basis, there's not generally a day where there isn't that thought of, I don't have that stereotypical beautiful female body. But the more you just don't feed that wolf in you, and the more you just feed the wolf of what actually matters and what your own values truly align with.
Yeah.
I think it helps.
Yeah, it's the wolf stories are a good one. And exactly, it is exactly what you feed it, you know. And you can change that and you can start to shift that, but I don't think that you can expect that to happen overnight. And I think it's nice to be able to have a relationship with your mind as well and understand where it comes from, because you can start to tap into why, you know, why your mind acts like this and why it tries to trick you, and the certain wounds or the certain trauma that might be associated from your childhood. And so really, I feel like the mind, you know, listening to the mind is actually a gateway to getting to know yourself a bit better.
It's really a lifelong process. I mean, you were saying even when you're like 70, you're still going to be learning how to love yourself and figuring things out.
Yeah, exactly. Because my body's going to be different when I'm 70 years old. I'm not going to look like what I do right now. Yeah, I'm still going to be learning how to go through changes. And yeah, so it's crazy.
You do realize that now every now and then sporadically you're just going to get a whole lot of naked photos of Caroline and myself, and you'll know that we've been in a bad mood, just different angles, different positions in the mirror. I'll be like, am I doing it right?
I'm very sorry to my friends who do get random naked photos from me.
Guilty.
I actually had this really cool idea come through for like a self-portrait or even like a series. I've really trying to like think outside the box lately, because I just want to do things a bit differently with my photography business. And I just had this idea of like all of those photos that I take of my body in its weird shapes and forms and printing them all out and then making like a crazy backdrop of all those images in black and white, and then just having like a really beautiful me in the middle in front of that backdrop, being like, hello, I'm here. And just like this really dynamic contrast of then and now and how much our bodies change and morph. Yeah, like this really unified sense of beauty.
That's so beautiful. I don't know if you guys ever remember watching, I think it was the BBC series of Life, and they were on CD or whatnot. And I'm talking about, maybe 10, 15 years ago, at least. And it would open up with just panning across different people from all backgrounds, different sexes and genders, and just being naked, standing in a line. And it was one thing that probably the first time that I'd seen so many naked bodies. And it was beautiful coming from a scientific perspective in that way, but just panning across just to see the diversity. And I think that's part of the problem, is we actually don't see enough diversity. We don't see enough naked bodies to actually truly know what the human body looks like for the average person. We get shoved into our face this ideal that has just been created that we compare ourselves to. But the reality of the situation is, most of the population doesn't look like that. And even the ones who do, it's only temporary. We do morph and change shape constantly, every day.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, I've been wanting to do a body positivity campaign with about 10 to 20 women and getting them all together. And I'm searching for such a diverse crowd, and I'm struggling to find women that are wanting to step into that, that don't necessarily fit into, I guess, what's been stereotyped as like the model. And I can feel a lot of fear from women that don't look like the said models that are sometimes shown. And it's really sad, and people message me like, oh, I'm not a model, but I really would love to like have an experience like this. And I'm like, you're perfect. Like, you're honestly perfect for this. Like, you're exactly who I need.
You want to find those vulnerable people to do that with.
Yeah, there's a woman that is bringing her mom. I'm still trying to like sort out the logistics of it, but there's this woman that's going to bring her mom who has early Alzheimer's and has a wheeler, and she's going to be a part of it, which I just think is beautiful to be able to do that with your mom. So yeah, it's going to be a really cool campaign once it kind of all comes together.
We've always had this dream in our friendship group of all of us just being naked and sitting in like an old dead oak tree, or just a huge tree without leaves on it, and just taking up the branches, kind of like those jumping goats, but just naked bodies in the tree. Have you not seen the trees, the jumping goats on them?
Trees? No.
Oh my gosh, I'll show you now. I'll bring it up on Google.
Just think about the splinters though on the trees.
Oh, you can climb it. Let me quickly share you my screen.
Okay.
You've never seen these? They're goats that climb trees.
Yeah, no, I've seen that.
Yeah, kind of like that, but just us naked bodies. But
maybe I can like recreate this image.
How do they get up
there? They're incredible beings. Embody your goat. That's what it should be called.
Wow. That's amazing.
You were talking about like on Instagram, there being good pages about body positivity and stuff like that. What are generally some resources that you recommend?
Honestly, like I follow a lot of photographers that do kind of similar work. There's this really beautiful photographer that goes by M Brand Photography. I don't actually know her name, but she does beautiful, simple photography work. And so that's a really gorgeous space. She also does self-portraits, and that's kind of where she started with her journey as a photographer. So that's a really beautiful space to go to. And even just starting to follow hashtags of like body positivity or, you know, diverse bodies, or just any hashtags. Starting to follow those is a really beautiful space to kind of start having more of that come into your feed. But like, I will admit, like, I do think social media is changing in a really beautiful way. You know, there's a lot more brands now that do have more of a diverse range of humans involved in their campaigns. And so I think it is starting to change and shift a bit more, which is really beautiful. But yeah, I would probably just suggest like starting to follow hashtags.
Yeah, I'm looking at M brand photography right now, and it is incredible. Wow.
Yeah.
Her name's Millie Brandon.
Millie, that's it. Yeah, she's yeah. The work she does, it's super simple, but like effective. It's amazing.
We've really got a long way to go with body positivity. And I realized that when the latest Victoria's Secret campaign has come out. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but they are doing a whole remodeling of the whole campaign, and they're using regular people, regular bodies, diversity. And the people out there who are like, boo, I'm not going to shop at Victoria's Secret anymore. And the Victoria's Secret model shows used to be like perfection, and like, you guys are selling out, and et cetera, and just really mean comments on the internet when such a big campaign has decided to say, you know what, we're going to use regular, beautiful women. We don't need to have a 6'5" size 4 woman anymore. That's not the world we live in anymore. And how people just freak out about it as if it affects them personally.
Yeah, and I think it's like, it's kind of this surface level thing where it affects them because, you know, that's what they've known for so long, is Victoria's Secrets is like these hot models that are, you know, they're kind of these rare finds almost, like, and it's this prestigious thing. And I just think it's bullshit. And that's awesome to hear that they're including, you know, just real bodies, you know, not these super defined, beautiful bodies, and actually having more diversity.
Yeah, the Victoria's Secret angel era is over.
Yeah,
that's a huge thing.
and
That was like the pinnacle of modeling, and that was supermodel stardom. If you got into that campaign, then you were catapulted to stardom. And now sorry,
it's the aim of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's amazing. It's a huge standing point for such a iconic modeling company to make such a shift. And I'm sure it would have gone a lot against their previous, I guess, alignment. But it just shows that, you know, the world is looking towards more of what beauty is and what actually counts, which is lovely.
Yeah,
I reckon now they'll keep the angels coming along, but now it'll be like those little cherub babies.
It'll just be you on a unicycle. Right?
Yeah. Me. Oh, big, bold. I'm not sure about the beautiful. Just
beautiful. Owning it, my love. Just own it, and it's beautiful.
Bold and bodacious.
So where can people find you? Where can they reach out and contact you and maybe get a shoot of their own with you?
So you can find me on Instagram. That's kind of where I'm probably online the most. I've got 2 pages. So I've got the first one, which is Soph Uncovered, and that's kind of like my personal page. It's turning into a space for a lot of my photography. And it's also this the page that used to have my travel blog. So it's really interesting to kind of scroll down and see just how much it's changed. And then I also have my photography one, which is Captured by Soph, and that's where I share my women's work, my ethical branding stuff. A bit more social documentary stuff is coming back in, which is really cool. And then I have my website at www.sophspencer.com. And I have more contact details on there as well, so people can reach out to me. But yeah, I'm based on the Sunshine Coast, and I have no idea when I'm going to be traveling again. But when time comes, I'm very much open to traveling around and doing these photo shoots on the road.
No, please do. I would love to have one with you.
I would love to do that.
We always finish with asking our guests about the Holy Trinity, which is we ask you to share a gratitude, brag, and desire that you have.
I remember seeing this question come up and I was like, I'll come back to it. And
now we're here.
A desire that I have.
It's good though. These things are always best in the moment when they're not planned, these responses.
Honestly, a desire that I have, I guess it's kind of like a dream that I have, really. Let's just put the two together. I really want to, like, where my passion is with my photography, like I really love the work I do with women, but the reason I studied at university was so I could be a storyteller. And I really see myself working with Sea Shepherd on the boats one day, or Amnesty International standing up for human rights and sharing stories that are going to really, you know, start the change and have an impact. And so I guess that's kind of my dream. My desire is to be able to step more fully into that. And a gratitude brag.
Gratitude and a brag.
Gratitude and a brag.
Yeah, sorry. It's a trinity.
Okay.
It's a dream. Like, what is a gratitude brag? That's like a whole new dimension of this.
Oh, I was like, ooh.
And then you have a brag desire.
Wow, I'm doing it backwards. Gratitude for today. My parents called me, and they've been living over in Abu Dhabi for the last 7 years, and they've been planning to come back to Australia for probably the last year, and they were meant to have a flight on the 8th of July, and they called me today on Facebook Messenger and showed me where they were, and they're in Brisbane in lockdown, and so it means that I get to see them a week earlier, which I am so incredibly grateful for. The fact that they pushed that hard to be able to come back so soon is, yeah, so super grateful for that. And a brag, holy heck, a brag. I've been really freaking proactive, like boss ass like crazy. And I've been taking so much action lately, and there's been like quite a few things happening in my life. And I don't know, I feel like I'm just killing it, you know, and I'm not letting it really like take the most of me, and I'm kind of just like letting it go and being like, okay, how can I like shift this and move this into something really cool? And so I'm doing really well, and yeah, that's gonna be my brag, is I'm killing it in terms of being proactive.
It's a bloody good brag.
Yeah. Your positivity is so contagious. I'm just here thinking about how much over the last few days I've felt like crap because I've barely gotten off this chair, and I'm just like, ugh. But like, wow, you make me want to get up and go sit on the couch or something, you know, move around a little bit. No.
Go sit on the couch, experience the couch. It's a nice change.
New scenery in this lockdown.
Thank you so much, Sophie, for joining us and sharing everything with us. It has been a bloody pleasure getting to know you.
Thanks so much, Soph. It's been wonderful. Yeah.
It's so great too, because like, you know, when I've done a few podcasts now, and I tend to get into this like mindset beforehand, being like, okay, this is what we're going to talk about, and this is the angle of it. And it's just so funny because it's never that way. Like, it's never that way. I was like, all the things I thought I was going to speak about was like, didn't even get touched on. So it's like, it's cool to like, just kind of let that go and be like, what's going to happen? So yeah, it was cool. It was really good. Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening to the Am I Adulting Good podcast. We hope you guys are getting out of it as much as we are and are learning a trick or two about how to adult. Please give us a review and a 5-star rating, like our podcast, and follow our channel on whichever streaming app you're using. It really helps us reach more people and build our community.
Hit us up on Instagram at Am I Adulting Good? Also, remember to send us your holy trinity and share your stories with us at amiadultinggood@gmail.com. Each week, we'll share one of our adulters' emails, and that could be you. Seriously, we love hearing from you. Keep doing your thing, adulters. We love you.
Am I adulting good?